It became a sort of dream to one day own a carnivorous plant. My name is Micah Valero Calo. I am a writer and editor in my day job, but as a hobby, I also raise carnivorous plants. My hobby has a business. The business is called Fyukinta's Flants because Fyukinta is actually the pet name na binigay sa akin ng mom ko ever since I was like super small. I think ano lang siya, mannequin ng dress shop sa Lucena. I don't know kung nandun pa siya and I don't know why nagkaroon ng pangalan yung mannequin. My mom gave me a book kasi mahilig din ako sa books ever since. It was an illustrated book about carnivorous plants. So doon ako na-discover na, oh okay, apart from Venus flytraps, there are pitcher plants, there are sundews, all kinds. So I bought my very first carnivorous plant. It was a regular Venus flytrap. At the time, it cost 300, 400. For the next couple of weeks, ay tumutubo siya! Pero may pictures ako nun, and when I look at it now, it was light deprived. It was growing very slow. Pero at that time, I was so happy kasi hindi siya namatay. Looking back, it was a learning experience because there were no references that I knew of talaga. Until as I continued sharing pictures, I met some friends online. And I got tips from them, and I got to share plants and seeds with them kasi sila yung una kong kilala na nag-i-import ng plants from abroad. Thanks to them, I was able to get more plants, I was able to raise my collection. And then when I graduated college, hindi ko na sila naalagaan. After a few trips out of town, nahayaan din sila. Hindi ko naman nabilin na, pakidilig po. Pagbalik ko, lahat sila natuyo. Lahat ng mga na-propagate ko with experimental pullings and cuttings, they all died. So after my collection all died off, I figured, hindi to sustainable. I don't think I can keep going. But then, fast forward, working na ako, working, boom, pandemic. Before the pandemic actually started, my brother kasi is working in Amsterdam and they have a lot of carnivorous plants also. He bought me a Venus flytrap kasi alam niya mahilig talaga ako. Tapos I tried to set it up sa apartment niya at the time. 3 weeks na we stayed there. Sinet up ko na din yung parang mini garden niya. Parang, oh okay, sige. Let's set up a Venus flytrap area. Let's set up a little sundew area. But it got me thinking na, shucks, I really want to raise plants again. Once we came home, there's this plant convention called Horticultura. A lot of people just come together and they sell all kinds of plants. Succulents, regular plants. Tapos nagkataon, I saw this one stall. Meron siyang carnivorous plants. Ngayon lang ako nakita ng Venus flytrap na ganun kalaki. It was parang, is this a sign? So at the time, kasama ko pa nun yung fiancé ko. Tapos I figured, I really want it. Pero mahal. But I really want it. What are the chances na makakita ko ng ganito kagandang specimen ulit? Binili na lang niya para sa akin. So after he bought it for me, I tried doing a few experiments again. I tried researching again. And then I tried reaching out to people online again na, oy, ano nga ba to? I know the basics, but I don't want to make the same mistakes I did in 2011. This was 2018 now. So I resumed learning from my friends. And then the pandemic hit. And at that time, it was super, alam mo yung uncertainty, people keep saying that it was mind-blowing whether or not we'll be back to normal. Naramdaman ko yun. Especially since by 2020, me and my husband were already planning to get married. So we weren't even sure ano mangyayari sa lahat ng plano natin. Because I needed an outlet, even though I was still working, I needed some kind of non-stressful thing to latch onto. I turned to plants. And then I decided, okay, let's just see where this goes. I bought more plants. I started experimenting with these plants on propagation tips. I was able to grow more talaga. And when I discovered that, hey, maybe there are other people who need something new to try to get their minds off the pandemic. At the time, I was living in Merville, so I offered it sa Facebook group namin there. Does anybody want to try carnivorous plants? I can give you tips and I can sell these at a fairly cheap price. And in fairness, a lot of people were interested because at the time, instead of the regular Venus flytrap, I was offering this plant called the biblis. Basically, it's a large, sticky plant. People were interested in it initially because it can catch mosquitoes. I told people, I can give you a care sheet on how to care for these, and I promise it's super easy. After I started selling more and more biblis, I figured, hey, this is really good. That's when I decided, okay, I need a name for this potential business. Let's go with Fyukinta's Flants. Pag meron akong harvest na alam ko na they're acclimated, they're good for release, iniipon ko sila and then I sell them in batches. I would announce on my social media, I'm going to have a sale. Please stay tuned. I'm still getting it together and I will announce when it will be ready. So usually, people will start asking, do you have a list available? Pwede ba ako mag-reserve? I try to say no because most of the time, wala akong list kasi I do this in between my day job and on weekends. It's also a matter of getting the plants. I try to make sure that they grow to a certain degree first before I release them. If they're still small, I warn my customers na, okay, maliit pa tong halaman na to. Sigurado kayo? Okay sa inyo? And most of the time, game sila if it's a specific kind of plant that they really want. I really want to be able to spread carnivorous plants as a hobby to more people because you can have regular plants, you can have pets, but how often can you have a plant that's also kind of like a pet? Parang something in the middle. Pwede mo siyang pakainin, hindi mo lang siya pwede pakainin regularly. It's more high maintenance than a plant, but it's less high maintenance than a pet. So there's that super cool in between. Plus the fact that it's exotic. Hey, it's a Venus flytrap. It's not as big as the ones that you see in Plants vs. Zombies, but it's still really cool. The most expensive plant I've ever bought was Venus flytrap that cost 7,000 pesos. This big. It's a Japanese cultivar. It's really pretty and nakikita ko lang siya sa pictures on Google before and it's not even super easy to find on Google because it's just that rare. It's not easy to care for at all and it grows super slow. Ano siya, ilang months pa lang siya, hindi pa siya nakaka 1 year. I'm hoping. Para naman lumaki siya ng mas malaki sa 1 piso. The hardest plant that I tried raising at first were these plants called pingiculas. In layman's terms, they're called butterworts. They look like succulents. The reason why I found them particularly difficult was because Mexican pingiculas, they don't require as much light. Parang dali sana, no? Pero hindi ko matansya yung light na kailangan nila. With my other plants, ibabad ko lang sila sa araw, they're happy, they're fine. With pingiculas, nasusunog sila. So, it took me a while to figure out ano ba yung tamang timpla dito. Same with other plants that similarly need not as much light like pitcher plants. One, because they grow really big, they vine. Pag nagtatagal, you have to maintain them also. And at the same time, there are hundreds of different kinds of pitcher plants. These pitcher plants have different kinds of care requirements. So as a rule, I stick to the ones that are easy to care for, which is also why I'm more assured that if I were to sell them to someone who is also not necessarily experienced in the hobby, I can tell them with confidence that hindi, kaya mo to, hinaya ko eh. Sometimes the best experience really is just getting through that fear of making a mistake. Because once you start making mistakes and once you start taking to heart talaga na ano yung ginawa mong mali, that's when you really start learning how to observe, how to watch out for signs. As someone who has killed so many plants, iba talaga yung learning when you really pay attention and when you really start looking closely at what you might be doing right or what you might be doing wrong. And I suppose a little answer to that would be, don't be afraid to ask questions. It's a combination of research experience and asking advice from other experienced growers that got me through this hobby. So if anyone else were capable of doing that, I'm pretty sure they'd go on.
1, 2, 3.
Here na sa madalas ko siyang pag may mga nagtatanong, nakakabawas ba ng insects ang carnivorous plant garden? No! That's a myth.
2, 3.
Lowest maintenance possible. Grow lights. That's it. Grow lights water. One of the appeals sa akin ng carnivorous plants is because they're small, you can keep them in a relatively smaller space like this. They're easier to manage. I can collect more of them. Kaya masarap mag-hangout dito, may exercise ka din ako.